Let's put today's class down in our minds as what we would call a bread and butter class. Something you've got to have as a basic, and something that must be maintained in consciousness daily as a basic throughout the years. This is the kind of class you should pass and never have to go back to except as a reminder. Something that you study, put aside to review until it is you. Until you can say, that is now behind me, I know it, I can live with it, and I can go on from this point. When we talk of masters, we're speaking of those who have mastered the illusion of life. And as long as we are still in the process of meeting error, and often succumbing to it, it is not only the error that defeats us, but this inability to rise to a level where error is insignificant becomes a barrier preventing the higher levels of your demonstration as spiritual being. And so let's look at that side of the coin which is called impersonalizing error, and then let's put it behind us so that we know error, so that we can see error, and we can identify error, and we can go on to live in that which is not error. Now first let's take this word error and call it hypnosis. And let's change the name of this chapter and call it Impersonalizing Hypnosis, because we learn that that's what error is. That all error, and there is no exception, all error is hypnosis. And in order to make that a very clear fact in our consciousness, let's look at several points which become a law unto us. And the first point is that God is perfect. You can't start with dirty water. If you begin the day that way, you end up trying to figure out all through the day how to make the dirty water clean. And you spend 50 years trying to push error away. Suppose we start with clean water and then never let it get dirty. Suppose we start with truth and never permit ourselves to fall into the lie. Suppose we start with reality and then hold fast when unreality tempts us to accept it, to fight it, to try in some way to subdue it. And so we start where we are, in the secret place of the Most High. For that's the only place you can find the truth you must begin with. The white raiment, the truth, the spiritual selfhood, none of this can be realized with the human mind. And when you start with the human mind, you're beginning your day with dirty water, because in that human mind is every yesterday that ever occurred in your life. And then you come into a day bringing all of your yesterdays with you in that mind. And the rest of that day is not a God day. You have all of this static of yesterday. And even though you're not conscious of it, it remains there. And so we identify truth to begin with as the perfection of God. We can't start a day any other way. God is perfect. I don't have to do something about it. I don't have anything to improve at the moment. I don't have anything to get rid of. All I have to stand and do is know that God is perfect. And now I let that simmer on the pot for a little while. Just standing in the knowledge that God is perfect is the way you begin with clean water. And God being everywhere, you know that God is perfect everywhere. And now you have the basic principle to begin your day. Perfection is everywhere. Unless you can accept this, there's no place to go. If there still intrudes in your mind the memories of all the things that have been wrong and that you consider to be wrong, you haven't even passed the first grade, which is God is perfect, and God is here, and God is there, and perfection therefore is everywhere. You must come to that first step. That puts aside every error you think you know, and every error you thought was in the world. You might call this an emptying out. Or if you like fancy words, you could call it a purifying, a redeeming. It's just standing in the knowledge of God being perfect everywhere. And as this begins to make itself known to you as a truth, you can then accept that perfection, being the nature of God who is everywhere, it is impossible for error to be anywhere. And you have to sit with that a while. There can be no error anywhere. It is impossible because perfection is everywhere. And if you cannot accept that, you must sit until it becomes clear to you that it is the truth. There is no place where God is not, and therefore the perfection of God, the law of God, the power of God, the presence of God, the life of God is functioning. God is being God everywhere. And where God is being God, there can be no error. And there's no place where God isn't being God, and therefore there's no place where error can be. Forgetting all of the images in mind, all of the things you were so certain about, these two principles become the law unto you. God is here and God is there. Perfection is here and perfection is there. How can there be error? There's simply no place for it to be. And then you're ready for that great question, well then, why do I see error? And the answer is quite clear. That's the hypnosis. It can't be there, but you see it, therefore where is it? It isn't there, but you see it, where is it? It's in your perception. And therefore, the only place the error exists is in our misperception. And we have the source and cause and locality of the error in misperception, or our hypnosis. When you see something that isn't there, you are hypnotized. When error cannot be there because God is, but you see the error, you are hypnotized. And so we have three basic principles. Because God is there, error cannot be there, but I am seeing the error, therefore I am hypnotized. And the nature of all error then is the hypnosis of that individual who sees the error. It can be 5 million people. It can be 1, it can be 10. But wherever error appears, you know the one who is seeing the error, or the group, is under hypnosis, because God is there, perfection is there, error is impossible, and therefore that which we see as error is our hypnosis. It makes no difference what error we see. It is our hypnosis. Because God is being God. And if we want to continue in the hypnosis, then we go to fight that error, which isn't there. Then we try to improve the error that isn't there. We try to correct it. We try to get rid of it. Sometimes we blame God and we say God is sending error to teach us a lesson. God is punishing us with these errors and for our errors. And then we pin these errors on people. That one is an alcoholic. And that one is a drug addict. We are seeing errors, and they're very real to us, because statistics tell us that so many people are alcoholics and so many people are drug addicts. And this is all part of the dirty water we are learning to cast aside. No, there are no drug addicts, and there are no alcoholics. There is no error. That is the hypnosis of the world. There are no isms. That is world hypnosis. And now we begin to sense that that which we are calling a drug addict and an alcoholic is actually a world hypnosis, appearing as an individual. Now this is the delicate part of error. This is the delicate part of hypnosis. It isn't one individual's hypnosis. And it isn't one individual's karma. If at times you feel a sort of unrest, can't put your finger on what it is, and even if you say, well, subconsciously something's getting to me, what you're really feeling is world karma, universal karma. It's sort of like this. If, for example, we had a radio in the room and could tune in an AM station, right now we'd have music. Where would it come from? It'd have to be here before we tuned it in order to sound when we tune it in. We're not bringing it here. It's in the room right now. We could tune in on AM 10 or 12 stations, and all of that sound is here now, but you don't hear it. But it's here, or else you couldn't tune it in. You couldn't make it sound here. Similarly, if you were to change to an FM radio, you could get another 10 or 12 stations. And there's 24 stations, all blasting different sound, and all that sound is here potentially, but beyond the limit of our minds. Now suppose we had a TV set here. We could tune in 5 or 6 stations. We wouldn't be bringing those pictures from somewhere. They are invisible right here in the atmosphere now, but we do not have the little knob that brings them into visibility. And then suppose we tune into a mountainside which has cable TV. And instead of these 5 stations here, we now have a radius going out about 50 miles, and we get another 10 stations. That too is right here now, but we cannot tune it in. All of this then is in the atmosphere. And it isn't even 1% of what is in the atmosphere. And that is what we face. The tide of invisible world thought. And you see, if you're not aware of it, you begin to say, there's a drug addict, there's an alcoholic, and there's this one and that one, but what are they? The infinite way reveals that they are this world karma, this world thought, this world hypnosis, personalizing itself as that person, as that drug addict, as that alcoholic, as each individual on the earth. World thought personalizes as people, and then personalizes as conditions. And we look out at those persons and those conditions, recognizing them not as the personalization of world thought, but rather as forms external to us. But God is there, and God is all. Perfection is there, and therefore imperfection is the only law, is impossible, because perfection is the only law. The error is world thought, which we are accepting, but nothing could change, because the perfect law of God is there. And so nothing has changed, although it appears to have changed. Perfection has not changed. And so after you have come to that point of recognizing that every error is world hypnosis, and you don't have to accept it, you are then ready to know that nothing has changed. Nothing whatsoever. The perfect divine image is still there, and nothing can move it away. Nothing can push God out of the way. Nothing has changed. The Immaculate Self, which is God individualized, is always the only presence. And therefore, you are able to impersonalize that error through the recognition of the truth. And you travel far enough then to have seen the nothingness of the condition, to have impersonalized the error, and now you're ready to do something about it. The only thing you can really do to demonstrate that you are in truth is to stand fast in the recognition that nothing has changed. There is nothing for me to do but to know nothing has changed. To recognize the error as world hypnosis, and to stand knowing nothing has changed until I am able to attain a silence, because I am now without fear. What do we really want to change? We want to get rid of that appearance, don't we? But that's what it is, an appearance. It isn't there to change. It's in your misperception. And therefore, what do you change? You change from misperception to correct perception. You don't change the person. You don't change the condition. You don't seek external help, because there's nothing externally wrong. The only thing wrong is your misperception of perfection, which you cannot see. You change your belief. That is all there is to it, isn't there? You change your belief. That's the only place there is an error. Now you're on target. I can't help anyone out there. I've got to change my belief that someone out there is not the divine image and likeness. I've got to change my belief, which is accepting world hypnotism. I've got to change my belief that there's another power beside the power of God which can move perfection aside. There isn't any. I've got to change my belief that there's a life out there which isn't the life of God, and is therefore separate and apart from the life of God. All of the error is in me. All of the error is in my belief that that which appears to me is true. The victim may have the same error, and the world may have the same error, but I can't break it out there. I can only break it by changing my belief, nothing else. And therefore I go through the levels of knowing the truth, facing the lie, not being tempted to remove something out there or correct something out there, and finally the peace which permits me to release the belief that it is out there. And when I release that belief that it is out there, I can attain the silence, the secret place, the peace, the inner peace. Now in that silence, God changes your belief. You can't really change it. All you can do is come to the place where you are able to see the untruth of what appears and dismiss that belief and reach the silence. And in the silence, the truth comes through the Father and changes your belief from that which you had thought to the divine thought, which is, I am there. That is my being you're looking at but cannot see. And so there's 3, 4, or 5 steps from perfection is everywhere, and therefore error cannot be, though it appears to be. And the source of the error is world hypnotism presenting itself to my mind, and will become my individual hypnotism if I accept it. And if I am aware of this, I can watch it knowing nothing has changed in the perfection of God's presence. I can attain a peace, a silence, and let my belief dissolve in the possibility that error could be there. Without keeping one eye open to see if it's going away. Because that's the admission that it's there, and that's the duality. This hypnotism is so subtle that whenever Jesus healed somebody, the church did a somersault and thought, my, look at this miracle worker. But what he was proving, if you stop and think of it a moment, is that there is no error. And going further, you can see what he was really saying is, there is no world out there. I'm not healing the world. I'm showing you the unreality of it. The unreality of the world is the basic hypnotism we face. To impersonalize the error, the hypnotism, you must recognize the nature of that hypnotism, for it presents itself to you as matter, as form, as time, as space, as motion. And all of it denies the ever-present perfection of God. Now you start out with your human faculties to figure it all out, and you find you ultimately fail. The world continually turns back to the faculties that are in the dream. The human brain is in the dream. Human logic is in the dream. Human reason is in the dream. And if you use these dream qualities, you may improve the dream for a moment, but you can never solve it. We have another barrier, and that is being satisfied. You know very well that when things are good, we don't work too hard at this. We sort of let loose, because if things are going good, who wants to do all this work? If the birds are singing and the trees are sprouting their leaves and flowers, and there's a great fragrance and sunshine in the air, who wants to impersonalize error? Nobody. But that is an error, and this is why. Hypnosis really means being asleep to reality. And you know that unless you're awake, there can be no truth. How can there be truth when you're sleeping to reality? And how can you be half awake to reality? How can you be half out of hypnosis without exposing yourself to all kinds of laws of cause and effect? The idea of being satisfied builds up our mental inertia. And then we're satisfied with a halfway out of hypnosis sort of life until the rude awakening. It doesn't work. And there is no halfway point for that reason. You can't come halfway out of sleep. You've got to come all the way to be awake. You can't come halfway out of matter. You can't come halfway out of unreality. You can't come halfway out of unconsciousness. You're either conscious or unconscious. You're either immortal or mortal. You're either spirit or matter. You're either in a mortal form or you're not in a mortal form. And so, after possibly years of finding some degree of truth, carving out some degree of happiness, some degree of feeling that you're not being pushed by world conditions, and some degree of being so overly satisfied that you pause along the way to compliment yourself on how good you're doing, and how for a while you're going to take a little vacation from truth and just trust things to take care of themselves, we finally come to a place where it's all the way or nothing, and we know it. Either I'm awake or asleep. Either I am the child of God or the creature. I can't be a hybrid in spirit. Now, while I am making up my mind what I'm going to do, world thought isn't waiting for me. There are still 20 radio stations blasting in this invisible silence here. There are still 20 TV stations blasting right here, inaudible, invisible. There are still all kinds of cosmic rays and all kinds of other rays going right through this atmosphere. In other words, there is a world static, and it is on without ceasing. It's there when I go to sleep, it's there when I wake up, it's there while I'm sleeping, it's here while I'm walking. World static, world hypnosis, world karma is a 24-hour-a-day reality in the world of men. And it lives your life unless you do something to let God live your life. And so impersonalizing error praying without ceasing, standing in truth, that error is impossible, because only God is here and there. This becomes rudimentary. It's as basic to you as a vocabulary is to a writer, or as a brush is to a painter. You've got to know it, and it's got to be on the tip of your mind every minute of the day. There can be no error. And if I in any way am hypnotized into believing that an error is possible and present, I have left the knowledge of truth that God is always present and perfect, and maintaining that perfection in spite of what may appear. No appearance can change the fact that God is omnipotent. And in omnipotence there is no error. In omnipotence there is no devil. We know that error, being impossible, still functions in the world mind even where we are being taught about God. Billy Graham's crusade the other night had a very strange thing to say. To some of you it's not new. Now let's take this. We're told that God said, "Thou shalt not kill." Now here's a statement from the crusade officials all about the earthquakes that are increasing in number, and then it says God is going to shake the earth with these earthquakes. God is going to shake the earth. Now then, we have the God who said, "Do not kill," but a minister of the church feels that God is changing his mind again. He's going to kill. He's going to shake the earth with earthquakes. And you see, what is happening is world thought is personalizing itself as a minister's words. Now there are lots of people who are going to take the oath for Christ because of God shaking the earth, you see. I really wish it were funny. But the tragedy of it is that this same scene is enacted all over the world. The error that cannot exist is used to terrorize the congregation. And then, of course, they come under the wing of the church, which will protect them, and they pray to this God not to shake the earth. Please don't shake the earth. We have 3 children and Harry's been out of work for so long. And I suppose God is supposed to hear that and then not shake the earth. And this perpetuates the belief that there is a power of good and a power of evil, and it also perpetuates the belief that God is also the power of the evil. God sends evil. God says, "Do not kill," and then God kills. The evil that we have in the world today is completely imagination. You'll never know it until you reach that secret place of the Most High through your daily activity in truth. You can even be fooled into believing it's there. As high as you go, if you are not able to maintain that ceaseless vigil which is the oneness with God. The knowledge that I and the Father are truly one. Oh, if you're not one, there's a schism as big as the Grand Canyon, and into it comes this fugitive idea. And then someone can get up there and persuade you that God is going to do these terrible things because the world is full of sinners who won't change their ways. And God has to kill them and send cancers and tortures and agonies to them. All of this hogwash is part of the Old Testament. You cannot find in the New Testament one word, one syllable, where Jesus Christ inflicted punishment on a single individual in the entire world. Even in the temple where he went in with this whip of grass, if you read it carefully, you'll see there was no contact made with human flesh. Oh, he scared their daylights out, no doubt about it. There was no physical injury. He accomplished what he started out to uphold the sanctity of the Spirit, the onlyness of the Spirit. And now we come to a place where we see that all error occurs in the hypnosis of a physical world. The error occurs because wherever it appears to be that individual momentarily is living in a false concept of self, and wherever you observe the error, momentarily you are living in a false concept of yourself. And if you're not on your toes, that false concept of self digs a hole in your psyche, and it's too deep for you to excavate. You cannot come out of it. It makes such an impression that you're struggling and struggling and struggling with this appearance, trying hard to get rid of that which is not there. Aren't there any earthquakes, you say? If this whole building shakes down, there are still no earthquakes. There would have to be matter first. You see how the world illusion is a total thing? And if we're living in the senses, how can we possibly see through the illusion of an earthquake, or the illusion of blindness, or the illusion of deafness, or the illusion of the 1,000 diseases that are in the medical books? And yet this has to become our bread and butter. It has to be behind us. So far behind us that we don't have to waste any more time with it. So that our evil world has no place anymore in our consciousness. We come out of the shadow. Now you can see that there's work to be done for you to reach the level where you can stand and face any appearance of evil anywhere, in anyone. Where you can watch somebody like John the Baptist, who might have been your best friend, and see his head on a platter and not be concerned about it. Jesus did. He didn't save him. How can we do that? Well, it says, love God supremely. You can't honor thy father You can't love God with your heart, soul, and mind and then say he's sending an earthquake to kill several thousand people. That's not loving God. That's atheism under the guise of religion. And every error that we see and accept is atheism. What is it saying? It's saying, I don't believe in God, isn't it? I don't believe in God. I believe in this error. Don't tell me God is all power. Look at this error. And then you're saying, well, if God knows everything, he must know about this error, and he's not doing anything about it. All prayer is based on the belief that the error is real. And that is based upon the belief that God isn't doing something about the error. That God is, if he's omnipotent, he's certainly not interested. But mostly it's based on the belief that God is impotent, not omnipotent. It's based on the belief that God can't do anything. That's why we have the errors. Now, when we don't believe in God, we believe God can't do anything about the error, or God doesn't know about the error, God isn't all-knowing, God isn't all-present, God isn't all-power. We believe that God is an imperfect God. And we don't have a God, do we? But God is your individual selfhood, and the individual selfhood of the individual where you are seeing the error. Finally, we're back to our one self. One perfect self everywhere. One perfect life everywhere. And we're standing foursquare on principles. God is omnipotent. Therefore, there can be no other power other than that omnipotent power. Even world karma is no power. There is no power but the perfect power of God. There is no power in anything. All power is in God. Therefore, nothing can change the power of God. Therefore, what appears cannot be real. Therefore, there's nothing to change the power of God or to influence the power of God. Finally, you're standing on the omnipotence of God, trusting it, and not misperceiving, not trusting your misperceiving senses. You overcome sense misperception by standing on the omnipotence of God. The knowing of God. Certainly God knows everything going on in God's kingdom. If God isn't running out there to change that appearance, it's because it isn't there. What is there? The Son of God is there. Everywhere is the Son of God. Now we have it all in our mind, but that's not the Christ mind. We must begin to accept perfection invisible everywhere, and you can only do it with your Christ mind. And you can only have the Christ mind when you begin to accept perfection invisible everywhere. So you've got a paradox. I need the Christ mind to accept invisible perfection, and only by accepting invisible perfection do I develop the awareness of the Christ mind. And that's where you have to live. Ready, willing, able to be tested by any incident, any appearance, however close it may come. Knowing that as I accept perfection everywhere, I will become more and more aware of the Christ mind, and then the Christ mind will finally reveal that invisible perfection which I am accepting. One word begins to become very prominent now. We know that the mind alone is only a beginning, and we're going to have to come above it. We know that logic and reason and memory and all of these things are human faculties. We have to come to the invisibility of life. We have to come to the acceptance that I am an invisible being, just as God is. God is invisible. I and the Father are one. I am invisible. God doesn't live by his wristwatch in time. I do not live by my wristwatch in time. God is incorporeal. I and the Father are one. I am incorporeal. God is immortal. I and the Father are one. I am immortal. Whatever God is, because I and the Father are one, I am. Therefore, my incorporeality becomes the place where I learn to dwell in my meditations, in my consciousness, in my developing awareness of the Christ mind. I accept the incorporeal I. I am incorporeal. So is everyone I know. There is no corporeality because all are one with the Father who is incorporeal. And now we have incorporeal people on this earth. We have incorporeal mothers, incorporeal fathers, brothers and sisters. When we see them corporeally, we are in error. There is no corporeality in God. There is no oneness in God. We are not impersonalizing the error. The error wasn't the condition which we saw. The error was corporeality. And automatically the condition in corporeality followed. The error was corporeality, and then we had good corporeality and bad corporeality. Neither are true. There are not two powers. There is no power to make corporeality. The hypnotism is the belief in a physical, external, corporeal, material world. The belief in a finitude of anything. We're re-identifying to accept the incorporeal universe peopled by the incorporeal children of God. The incorporeal forms of light. The incorporeal individualization of divine consciousness is my child, my mother, my father, my parent, my sister and brother, my enemy. All of these names disappear. We leave them for my sake, for my incorporeal reality. We see them in my name. We impersonalize the error. We nothingize the condition in corporeality by first impersonalizing corporeality. All imperfection is impossible in an incorporeal universe. There is no error in it. There is no evil. There is no death. There is no murder. There is no sickness. Even to recognize suffering as reality is an error. Who is suffering? You've got a suffering appearance. And don't think you're being heartless. It says, love the Lord, honor thy father. That's your father over there. It's not what you thought it was. It's the Spirit of God. Is it suffering? No. All the suffering is part of the illusion. Your heart is bleeding because that someone is suffering. You're wrong. You don't believe in God. That's where the suffering is, in your misperception of the perfection that is there. Oh, it sounds heartless, of course. But when you are able to reach that place where it isn't heartless, where it's a blessing, it's just like being grateful for the surgeon who can be heartless enough to operate without trembling all over. That's his blessing. If he can be heartless enough not to tremble, he's going to do some good, isn't he? If we can be heartless enough not to see the suffering that could not be there because God didn't place it there or permit it there, we will find that peace, and that peace is the blessing. That peace is going to break the illusion of suffering. You see how everything comes back to your consciousness of truth. Oftentimes we really want to help people, but we really just can't see them suffer. That's what hurts the most. It isn't so much wanting to help them as to prevent their suffering. And that's the greatest illusion of all. That's what deepens your fear. That's what makes you turn away from God and say, God isn't there at all. The love of God is gone. The power of God is vanished. That's part of the world hypnosis. The suffering is in the world hypnosis which we accept on the local level. Every time you believe God is letting someone suffer, it is just that you are not knowing God aright. These are some of the things we have to impersonalize and nothingize. We have to be alert to the traps. And there are traps everywhere you turn, mostly because of the prime illusion of corporeality. I said there were two sides to this coin, and later we're going to look at incorporeality a little different than we have. You must begin to live in your incorporeal self. Experience it, accept it, demand of yourself that you live in it. Move free of corporeality in your consciousness. You'll find all that we've done so far is automatic, without taking thought, when you are more conscious of your incorporeal self and of the incorporeal universe. You don't have to go through all of this. All of this leads you to that effortlessness until it's like a racing driver. When he's doing 200 miles an hour on a hairpin turn, he's not going through any 1, 2, 3, 4, what'll I do next? All of his years of experience are coming to that moment. And in that moment, years and years and years of practice is making it possible for his reflexes to do exactly what is required without thought. So with you, it may take months to press down on this mind that rebels. It may take more months to be able to look out and be true to God instead of to your sense misperceptions. But all of the time you spend will finally reach the place where, in 20 seconds, years and years of activity, all like that, No effort on your part. It becomes an automatic thing. Remember, the racing driver is doing that, but if he lays off for 6 months or 2 weeks, he's got to do it all over again. So with us. You may reach that point where you're alert to truth. Don't get satisfied. It's a mistake. This is pinpoint timing. And the only way you can stand there is through making it a way of life. It was the way of life with Jesus Christ and his disciples. The knowing that all that I see is always God be, no matter how it appears to human eyes. And then if the tide is too high, or the wind is too brisk, or the street is too wet, no matter what may appear, imperfection is not possible. Error is not possible. No matter what has happened, error is not possible, because God is maintaining a perfect universe. And though there's nothing to correct except your belief that there was an error, and lo and behold, you will discover that error never did happen. It was only real to the 5 sense corporeal you. It never could happen. Only God can happen. And that must become our daily consciousness. Then we are ready to live incorporeally, spiritually, as the light, the reality, the Son, the child, the divine being. Let's go to our secret place, because words are not needed there. We do not even go there. We become aware that we are there. And now we don't try to make something happen, we abide there. We merely abide in God. There's no hurry. God is willing to do the work. Rest there. There's nothing for us to do but to be there, to keep our attention there. Here God is. Right here God is being God. There's nothing to seek, to ask for, to need, or to want. God is being God, right where you are. God is being your life where you are. God is your incorporeal self. God is your invisible name. That's who you are. where you stand is holy ground. Can error occur there? Can evil occur there? No, it can only be misperception. It cannot change the reality that God is your incorporeal self. To face any misperceived evil with the knowledge that it has no power, no presence, no substance, no law, no reality, it simply is hypnosis, is to unveil and unmask the errors of the world as they come to you. Just by being what you are. Nothing can change that. The omnipotence of God ever sustains itself without opposite. Your spiritual being is all there is of you, and it is never in a state of evil or error. It is never lacking. Even though lack may appear, even though limitation may appear, they are misperceptions. Simply a human incapacity to realize the fullness of your own being. But the fullness of your own being doesn't go anywhere. It is always present. It is always abundant. It is always energetic. It is always vigorous. It is always in perfect health. Always the lie is simply faced and recognized and identified. And that's all there is to it. The truth of being doesn't change. Blindness is a lie, because your being is vision. Deafness is a lie. It's hypnosis. Your being is hearing. You simply are not accepting your being. You're accepting the misperception. You go down the list. Whenever it comes to your attention that you're something other than the perfect self, it's a lie. There simply is nothing other than the perfect self. And in the knowledge of truth, the light will shine through to dissolve the lie, to the measure of your awareness of that truth. This whole world becomes your initiation. And you have the priceless privilege of being the living child of God in spite of every appearance. If you will, not try to come halfway or three-quarter of the way out of the sleep of mortality. Nothing can change the truth of God's presence where you are. We'll take a run through some of the Bible passages that pertain to your spiritual self. And we'll start with John 10:30. I and the Father are one. God is spirit. You can only be one with spirit by being spirit. God is not flesh and blood, but God and I are one. Therefore, the high vision is that I am not flesh and blood. The mind will not assimilate this. The misperceiving mind will not accept this. Only in the depth of your soul will you know this to be true. So you must live there. That must be your habitation. There you will discover that I and the Father are one spirit. And as the Father is not flesh and blood, neither am I. God is life, and his life is the light of all men. I and the Father are one. I am life. I am light. All that the Father is, I must be, because I and the Father are one. And all that denies it must be misperception, not to be accepted. That is the importance of I and the Father are one. It is the authority that the I of you and the Father are one and the same. And it is the I which makes this declaration. The I of you and the Father are one and the same. Permit any form of error to creep into your belief as a possibility, and you are driving a wedge between the reality of yourself and the supposed self that you are. And then you walk out as a dream, as a mortal myth, and you can spend the next 50 years living that way, wondering why God isn't the light of your life. It matters not what mortal does to you. It cannot do anything to the reality of your being. Your life does not depend on your body. Your life does not depend on any body, on any condition. Your life does not depend on a single thing in this entire world. Your life is independent of this world. And you have to live with that in consciousness until it seeps through into your everyday knowing that my life is independent of this world. It doesn't depend on my heartbeat. It doesn't depend upon my weight or lack of weight. It doesn't depend upon my brain cells. My life is completely independent of this which is called my physical being. And as long as I live in the knowledge that I am that life, it will appear as the regulating, governing self for that which the world sees as my physical being. As long as my consciousness is living in the knowledge of that life, is linked up with the reality of me, so that I am not separate in my belief, not apart, not living a second life, a life in the shadow. I and the Father are one, never divided. And because the Father is perfection, you are never separate from perfection. It is impossible. You may think you are, but that is misperception. You cannot be separated from perfection in all things. You cannot be separated from grace. It is impossible. You cannot be separated from love. Why? Because I and the Father are one. Not two. The Father is love. How can I be separated if we're one? The Father is perfection. I cannot be separated from that which I am one with. That is the fact. It doesn't change. Everything that denies it is misperception. Therefore, when you learn the fact and live with the fact, and reject that which denies the fact, that perfection which you accept to be your divine heritage, that love, that abundance, that perfect, ever-present self which cannot be separated from itself, is you. All that can stray from it is world hypnosis, and you're accepting world hypnosis. There can never be an error in your being. You're never guilty of error. You're never guilty of an evil thought. You're never guilty of an evil scheme. You're never guilty of condemnation. You're guilty of no thing on this earth. The misperceiving mind which creates a sense of a second self is merely fooling the one who accepts themselves as guilty. They have not accepted that I can never be separate from that spirit which the world calls God. We are pure, but we have to be what we are. One. In John 12:45, he that seeth me, seeth him that sent me. That is the statement, then, that you are saying when you know that God is spirit, and whoever sees you, no matter what they think they're seeing, you are spirit. He that seeth me is seeing the Spirit, which is one with the Spirit that sent me, for they're one and the same. You're looking at the Spirit of God. Whoever sees you is seeing through a veil, because they cannot see the Spirit of God that you are. And this is the statement here. This is your identity. And you must let this be the identity of all that you see. Whoever you see, you're seeing him that sent that individual. Where are you looking? You're looking at one who is one with the Father. It doesn't matter if they know it. You're the illumined one. You are looking at one who is one with the Father. That one is the Spirit of God. You are looking at the Spirit of God. You are the Spirit of God. You are looking at yourself. Always you are looking at yourself everywhere, and yourself is looking at you. As you live with this, it opens up. The invisible, infinite one is the ever-present, invisible perfection of the universe. God is the kingdom of God. The self of you is the kingdom of God. The perfect law of your being never stops being what it is. And again in John 16:12. I didn't intend for that one. I have many things to say unto you, but ye cannot bear them now. Well, I think we're saying them. This is the one, 16:28. I, and this is the I of your being, I came forth from the Father, and am come into the world again. I leave the world and go to the Father. This is the truth of your being. You are formed of the Father, you return to the Father. How do you do that? Because I and the Father are one. Always there is no you except the one who is one with the Father. This is not going to return to the Father, but I am. The you that is returning to the Father is the Spirit of the Father, and it is here now. It came forth from the Father. It returns from the Father. When is it separate from the Father? I am always one with the Father. I am always the perfect self. I will never permit a human sense of things to fool me with its misperceptions. This is what you're dwelling with until you're ready to move into that incorporeal life right here, right now. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 5:1. About our invisible body. For we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, if our physical form, our earthly house of this tabernacle, were dissolved, right now, not if we die, but right now, if we knew the truth about this earthly form, if this house of this tabernacle were dissolved in our consciousness, we have a building of God. What is that building? Our spiritual self, isn't it? And it's here. We have a building of God, An house not made with hands, not formed in the womb, not humanly created, but eternal in the heavens. We're becoming aware now that within what appears to be the first born, there is the second born. And we never were the first, we're always the second. It's only the misperceiving mind which thinks of ourselves in terms of flesh and blood. That invisible house, not made with hands, I am. I come forth from the Father, I return to the Father, I and the Father are one. Now, since before the world was, and forever, I, the invisible house that is one with the Father, can never leave you. We are one and the same. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 6:1. Make that 6:16. Ye are the temple of the living God. For God has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them. I will be their God. The Spirit of God is your temple. Now, all of the errors of this world are denying what we are reading in the Bible. Every sense misperception denies this. But this is the fact. And the sense perception is the concept of world hypnotism. 2 Corinthians 5:16. Wherefore henceforth know we no man after the flesh. Yea, though we have known Christ after the flesh. Oh, how beautiful. We have known Christ after the flesh. We're looking at Christ and calling it the flesh. We have said, Mother, you are my mother in the flesh, but it isn't. We have known Christ after the flesh. We have thought of ourselves after the flesh. We have judged, but we have misjudged. What is righteous judgment then? Not to know after the flesh, but to know the Christ. Yet now henceforth know we him no more as flesh. We know his reality. He is the Spirit, the temple of the living God, one with the Father. In Matthew 6:25, take no thought for your body. Take no thought for your life. Why? Your life is the Spirit of God. Your body is the Spirit of God. Stop misperceiving your spiritual body as a human physical form. Take no thought. Stop misperceiving. Accept what you are. Ephesians 4:22. That ye put off, concerning the former conversation, the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lusts. Be renewed in the spirit of your mind, that ye put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness, the old man and the new man. The body of flesh that we thought we were through the perception of the mind. The new man, the spirit that we always were, one with the Father. A readjustment in consciousness, a rebirth in consciousness, an acceptance of no error and of no form which is capable of error, an acceptance of incorporeality. It goes on, it goes on, it goes on. John, 1 John 1, 4:4. Always the same message. This will be I in the midst, is greater than he that walks in the world. Ye are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. The incorporeal self is your reality. Spiritual temple. The spiritual substance, the spiritual life, God itself. Always these phrases are reminding us that all error is a lie. Nothing changes the ever-present perfection of God where you stand. Now, God isn't sick. God never had an accident. God isn't unhealthy. God isn't poor. God isn't going to die. God isn't suffering. And I and the Father are one. We have to learn to accept that. We have to learn to dwell in the truth of that so the lie comes up against a stone wall. The single I is single to God. It accepts that I am that invisible, incorporeal spirit. I am the spiritual temple of God. I don't know anyone who isn't. We are all that one. And that is the single I. Not divided, not dual, not accepting God as something and error as something else, but accepting God as all, and error as impossible. It doesn't change anything. It only changes another lie. Error changes the lie to another lie. But if you're in the truth, you can let the lies change all they want. They do not change in your consciousness. And you really take no thought for your spiritual body because it is God. You have no other. You put off the old man, you discard which is not that which is not you. We're going to come back to some of the statements from Joel's book, which we've been discussing here. But all of this reasoning and mentalizing and recalling truth and being alert becomes more like a reflex action if you're practicing certain spiritual exercises, so that you don't have to stop and find chapter 6 on line 28 and what did it say and how will I remember that. Why don't you just get out of that body a little every day? Every day. Give yourself a 10-minute holiday from the body. You'll see what I mean. When you are willing to accept incorporeality for 10 minutes, you will do more in those 10 minutes than you will do with a library of books. Because everything that you will have read and will have heard happens to be already finished. And then you come to the experience of it instead of the mouthing about it. Well, let's do it now and see what I mean. It's going to be strange for some of you. But I accept that you have no physical body for a moment. There's no place you can find a physical form. Now you know that in the form you have vision. You can see 100 yards away. Well, maybe all of that 100 yards isn't your vision from over here to over there. Maybe the whole 100 yards is your vision. Maybe all of that distance is actually your vision, seeing every inch of the way right from where the place itself is. So that is all your vision. 100 yards of vision, all alive with vision. The very vision you have here, you have over there, if you knew you were there. Every quality you have over here, you have over there, and all along the way. Why? Because God over here isn't any different than God over there. God's vision doesn't stop where your body does. God's vision is there and there, but I and the Father are one. My vision is everywhere. Now, if I become conscious of myself where I am, I will have vision everywhere. If I become conscious of myself everywhere that I am, I will have qualities everywhere. Someday you will find that this is already the truth. And you'll go traipsing around, out of body, happily enjoying your freedom everywhere. Why not? I and the Father are one. Start living that way for 10 minutes a day and see what I mean. Don't be afraid to take a few steps in your mind. You'll find it's easy without a body. Don't be afraid of the impossibilities that suggest themselves to a human mind. You don't have one. Begin to feel the freedom of being. Try to get a feel of your incorporeal self. Try to learn that your life is everywhere. No matter where you go, it's going to be. There are no barriers, there are no walls to your incorporeal self. There are no densities. There's nothing you can sink in. Every place is spirit. And it's a matter of picking up consciousness everywhere, but letting the consciousness do it, so that you rest in the knowledge of an invisible, incorporeal self which is everywhere. And then let the spirit do what it wishes as you drop all human mental concept. You may only get a tinge at first, or a beginning, or it may happen in a dream. But plant the seed that there is no place where you are limited or forbidden to be. For you are an everywhere self. And as you can, let your consciousness of that begin to take over, it will show you your everywhere self in many ways. 10 minutes a day. Don't mind the struggle. After a while, it begins to do things by itself. You may even be shocked to discover you really are an incorporeal being. You never had a corporeal body. You don't have an incorporeal and a corporeal. You have an incorporeal body misperceived and appearing as only to the world's sense. This is the freedom that we will learn to live in increased measure. That's why we have to go through all of the bread and butter course of impersonalizing error, to get out of that form which we're not in. I and the Father are one. I come from the Father, I go to the Father. Thou seest me, thou seest the Father. Oh, he said it in 95 different ways, every way except straight out. You're not there in a physical form. They had to speak of earthly tabernacles instead of human bodies. They were speaking to an enslaved mind. It would have been happy just to get a third meal a day. We have our third meal. We also have the horrors that appear in the world. We have God shaking the world. We have ministers who think God is bringing evil to earth. We impersonalize all this. And we live in the one infinite, incorporeal, spiritual self. Free from concept, 10 minutes a day, letting the I that is infinite take you on a guided tour of the many mansions within. Give yourself that luxury until you feel rather unhappy when you're not in that awareness of the incorporeal self. When you come out of it and go through this world, you'll find you hunger to return, to be still, to know the glory of the invisible self, the reality of being. I wanted us to have a taste of this today because Spirit makes these demands upon you, and when Spirit does, you comply. And also to know that impersonalizing error, although it's quite a drudgery at times, is a vital thing. It's the way you come out of the prison of world hypnotism, of world karma. You see, we're not suffering just from mind. We're suffering from world karma. But there isn't any. The whole suffering is hypnosis. There's only God. Where's world karma? Just the false belief that everyone accepts. Just the invisible static all around us, multiplying itself through those who are unprotected and innocent of it. Even good people, even holy people, even those who think they're living spiritually, even great religious leaders, all taken in by world static, denying the allness of God's presence, the allness of the spiritual universe, the allness of the incorporeal self, accepting duality, accepting good and evil, still living in the Garden of Eden and thinking that they have fallen. But we are awakening from the sleep, and Christ is giving us light. Now I hope this exercise is clear to you, because when you are able to do it for a little bit, it doesn't matter if you have any great sensation or not, there will be a deepening of the peace. There will be a feeling that I almost made it that time. There'll be a feeling that this is the direction I'm going to travel a little more. And you'll come out of it looking at the world and saying, well, you don't scare me a bit. You don't fool me. I somehow am developing that consciousness of the invisible self behind this visible world, and a freedom in it, an awareness of it. And as you do, this world won't terrorize you. Its evils won't penetrate your mind into the acceptance of them. You look at your own form and say, well, if they hand me my head on a platter, it's not going to change a thing. We're learning to lose all of the concepts which have denied our own being and the presence of God as ever perfect everywhere, undivided. We're coming out of hypnosis. Remember now, the only thing that we suffer from, either individually or collectively, is hypnosis. There is no error except hypnosis. There is no condition. There is no physicality. There is no matter. There is no world. There is God. There is the universe that God is. There is the kingdom. There is the divine self. There is the Christ. There is I. Infinite, eternal, immortal, ever present, ever perfect, ever wondrous as the Father. Now in Joel's chapter, it's rather late, I guess. When Jesus turned on the devil in the temptations, there was no devil there. It was just a temptation in his mind. You knew that, of course. There was no devil, there was just a temptation in his mind. Fine. And it had to be met in his mind. So, there is no evil person confronting you. There's no evil condition confronting you. This is a personalization of the impersonal carnal mind. It isn't a belief of your mind. That's the point. It is the universal belief in two powers. And as you recognize this and impersonalize it, the evil falls away from the person. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, depending upon his powers or degree of receptivity. It's hard to impersonalize because these images of persons are so deeply implanted, and so you have to dwell in that invisible self for quite a while before it's very real to you. And then the bubbles of persons do not bewitch you into accepting them as real. There is no evil condition confronting you. If you want to reread that again, it's probably on page 76 in Mystical Eye. What determines the harmony of our experience is our reaction to these things. Not hiding, not claiming they do not exist, but recognizing that they're only power to a world that believes in good and evil, not to me. I know that there is but one power. That means no other power is possible. Now, when we say that there's only one power, there aren't two powers. There aren't the powers of good and the powers of evil. That means that the power of perfection can never be changed. It doesn't make any difference if the whole side of the mountain falls down. You must stand in the knowledge that there wasn't a mountain there in the first place. Only God was there, and God is still there. All that has happened is one dream in world hypnosis of a mountain has now changed to a fallen mountain. All that is there is God everywhere. That's your universe. And so the change from one illusion to another doesn't shake you up. For you it will be a harmonious change, because you know the reality of it before the change. God didn't create an earth and then shake it up. God's earth is perfect. It doesn't need any shaking. It is perfect now. All it will shake is the illusion in men's minds. And if we shake with it, we have not found that I and the Father are one. We are prepared for the voice. I think that's the 8th chapter, the voice. We're in the 8th chapter already. Next week. I speaks. We should be able, if we're practicing the incorporeal self 10 minutes a day, to come to a place where the incorporeal self hears God speak. That's the level at which I speak. And so in a sense you're preparing for that chapter and for that experience, and you're inviting that experience as a permanent dispensation. I don't want to weary you. I have so many more things to do, but we'll just rest now, unless you can tell me what time it is.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Well, I guess we will rest now. And let's close with a meditation reviewing incorporeality as without boundaries, not finite, not weight, not density, just a quiet knowledge that I am life, without boundaries. You can't take my life and crowd it into a little form. You can't put a package around it. It's free life. It's divine life. It's so constituted that it is absolutely and totally perfect life. So perfect that it maintains that perfection forever. It is eternal life. It is radiant life. It is all knowing, all power, all glory, all truth, all love, and it is everywhere. It is forever without error. Thanks again.
Thank you.